What's up, everybody? It's your boy DeVaughn Taylor here, aka Deezus, and this is my podcast, Deezus Take the Reel. You're welcome for that title. Oh my gosh, I am so fucking excited. To answer your first question, this is not a religious podcast. Unless movies are your religion, then consider me your Lord and Savior because you're in my world now, motherfuckers. We're going to be talking movies, we're going to be talking life, we're going to be talking all sorts of things. And it is noted that this is for mature audiences only. This is going to be very raw, unfiltered, and explicit, so you have been warned. But yeah, this is my podcast. I've been talking about doing this for such a long time, ever since I started my YouTube channel. This has been something I've been wanting to do, but it's just been a combination of waiting for the right time and having enough money because a lot of this equipment is expensive. But $600 later and a lot of YouTube tutorial videos, this podcast is finally here. Okay, so pretty much the breakdown of the show, it will go one of two ways. I will be doing this show every week. It will be released every Tuesday morning, just because I like saying Tuesday. So that's gonna be when every episode comes up. It will go one of two ways. Either A, it will be an episode with me by myself, and I'll be just kind of talking about things going on my day-to-day basis during my week, something funny, and I'm going to relate it to movies in some fashion. Or I will be joined with a guest in which they will do the same thing, except we will be talking about movies together. We'll be talking about something going on in their life, and we will relate it to movies, some sort of movie topic, but it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're going to get weird, we're going to get crazy, and things are going to get real. I'm super excited for this podcast. Okay, so you may notice that this is episode 0 of this podcast. Why is that? Because this episode is not going to go exactly how I formatted the show, because I'll be kind of walking you through it and introducing you to these segments that will be happening on every podcast every week. So this is it's a kind of weird episode, but it will still follow the same structure as every other episode that we'll be following. So, segueing into the first segment, it is called Who the Hell Are You? This will be a segment on every episode that has a guest, but not necessarily with me, because you already will know who I am after this episode. So this segment, Who the Hell Are You, is about me today, so it's just me telling you a little bit about myself, about my passion for movies, why I wanted to do this podcast, why I'm doing my YouTube channel. So this is my chance to kind of let you guys get to know me a little bit. Before I get into that, I just want to make a note to follow me on Twitter at Deezus12. And if you're listening to this podcast, I want you to tweet at me so that I know that somebody out there is listening, and I will give you a shout out on the next episode, because I want to be real interactive with people on this podcast. So I want to give people shout outs. So if you are somebody who does not already know me, like you're not my friend that I have forced to listen to this podcast, go ahead and give me a follow on Twitter, and I will give you a shout out on Twitter as well as in the next episode of the podcast, because like I said, I want to have a real interactive community with this podcast. I really want to get to know you guys as you guys get to know me. So let's go ahead and get into Who the Hell Are You? My name is DeVaughn Taylor. I grew up in a city called Arnold. It's 20 minutes south of downtown St. Louis, so I'm in St. Louis County. That is primarily where I lived. I've kind of bounced around a little bit, but that's where my family settled down. I went through high school and everything like that. I was a athlete in high school, but I was also an artsy kid. I was an art education major when I came to Springfield, Missouri, which is where I live right now. I came to study at Missouri State University. I was going to study art education, and then student loans and money happened, and I ended up dropping out, but I stayed down here because I made a very comfortable life for myself down here. I like Springfield, Missouri very much, so that is where I live right now. But I'm no longer in school, and I've kind of switched my life around since then on what I want to do with my future. And eventually I hope to be out in LA. I want to be able to review movies, whether it be for bigger YouTube channels or, TV or whatever, online. I just want to be able to talk about movies for a living and hopefully get paid for it. So I wanted to do this podcast because I do have a YouTube channel where I review movies. And my channel, I originally wanted it to be kind of an encompassing channel, like movies, TV, but I wanted there to be like comedy and skits in there and stuff like that. And there are stuff like that a little bit, but my channel is still primarily movies. So this podcast is how I want to integrate movies, talking movies with other people, and letting you guys get to know those people and letting you get to know me, just because that's what I love. I love movies so much. I grew up on movies as a kid. It was a big thing that me and my dad and my family and my sisters, it really brought us together. One of my favorite memories as a kid, whenever I would go to the movies with my dad, it was an every weekend thing, and it'd usually be just me and my dad, or maybe my dad and my sisters, because my mom would be at work. So we would go to the movies. On a day that we wanted to go to the movies, we had to drive to the gas station, and my dad would give me 50 cents. You know what that 50 cents was fucking for? To go get a newspaper. Yes, this was before the days of smartphones, and we survived. But my dad, he would send me in there to get a newspaper, in which we would throw 90% of it away in the trash can. We were not very environmentally friendly back in those days. Because all we would keep was the entertainment section, and it would have a list of the movie theaters in our area, and that's where the showtimes were. You couldn't look it up on your Fandango app on your iPhone. You had to do it the old-fashioned way, and that's how we planned around when we'd see a movie. So if we were seeing a movie in a couple hours, we'd get something to eat before, or we'd go straight to the movies and get something to eat afterwards. And this was just a routine with my dad, and we really bonded, and I watched a lot of movies as a kid. And then whenever I would hang out with my sisters, we had a super big VHS collection, and we would watch maybe the same 7 movies. But eventually, as I started to get older, I would explore the shelf of the VHS movies, because my dad and my mom, they're big into movies. So it just kind of grew on me, and I loved looking at the covers on all the VHSs, and then eventually, as I get older, I would venture into different movies and try out watching different movies. So yeah, that's kind of what grew me into movies. But as this podcast goes along, you will learn a little bit more about me and why I love movies so much. So on episodes where I have a guest on, the conversation will be more about them, on, how they incorporate movies into their life. But this episode, I will be telling you how movies has made an impact on me by discussing my favorite movie, which, if you already know me, you already know what my favorite movie is. I have a damn tattoo of it on my arm because I love this movie so much. Is The Nightmare Before Christmas, the Tim Burton, not directed, but Tim Burton's A Nightmare Before Christmas. To clarify that for people, just to show you how much of a movie nerd I am, Henry Selick is the director of A Nightmare Before Christmas. Tim Burton just created everything. He was the producer. He created the world, the characters. That's why it is Tim Burton's. He did not actually direct it. So when people see Coraline and it says from the director of Nightmare Before Christmas, people think that Tim Burton made Coraline, when in fact it is Henry Selick that directed A Nightmare Before Christmas and directed Coraline. Just a little factoid for you. I am full of useless information about movies, and that's a fact to clear up some misconceptions about Nightmare Before Christmas. But anyways, to get into why I love this movie so much. This movie has developed a culture. It is a cult following movie. It didn't do super well at the box office. It is rated pretty decently on Rotten Tomatoes, but it doesn't have like a super high score or anything. But people gravitated towards this movie because of the world that it created. What Tim Burton is known for is making people feel okay about being different, about being unique. That's almost what all of his movies are about. They're all about outcasts. They're all about weirdos. And that's the beauty of Tim Burton movies and why they're so relatable. I wouldn't say Tim Burton's my favorite director, but however, his filmography has made the biggest impact on me as a person and as a lover of movies. So, Nightmare Before Christmas, I have been watching this ever since I was a kid. Halloween is my favorite holiday. However, A Nightmare Before Christmas is in fact a Christmas movie. I will fucking fight you if you want to argue me about it, because Nightmare Before Christmas is in fact a Christmas movie. If you believe it is a Halloween movie, tweet me at Deezus12. Tell me why it's a Halloween movie, and I will tweet you back telling you why you're wrong. So I've been watching it. I watch it all through December. I try to see how many times I can watch it in the month of December. My record is 27 currently, and I think I'm going to try and break that this year. I don't always try to break the record every year. Every year I just see how many times I can, casually watch it. But I think this year I'm going to go out of my way to beat this record. Maybe watch it all 31 days in December. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll get fucking crazy. So I'm going to break my love for this movie down in two different ways. First off, I'm going to get super nerdy on you in breaking down the actual movie itself, on why I feel like it is the closest thing to a perfect film, because I do not believe in perfect movies. I don't give them perfect scores. However, A Nightmare Before Christmas is pretty damn close. So I'm going to get a little bit nerdy in terms of film-wise, but then I'm also going to nerd out a little bit, like I said, on letting you know why Nightmare Before Christmas has made such an impact on my life, on who I am as a person, why I love this movie so much, and why it still resonates with me. I'm 22 years old, and I still worship a fucking kid movie. So I'm going to nerd out a little bit on you, so here we go. Nightmare Before Christmas, let's talk about the visuals first of all. Nightmare Before Christmas, a stop-motion classic. It's up there with the best of stop-motion animated films. It's one of the best animated films of all time. I believe it actually is the best animated film of all time. If you watch the behind the scenes on how they made this film, it's only 76 minutes long. It's an hour and 15 minutes long. It goes by super fast, and it took nearly, I think it was 2.5 years of filming every single shot, and they had like 80 different heads for Jack for him to express all of his facial expressions, because that's part of the what makes this movie so magical when you watch it. These clay animated figures look so real because they gave them so many different facial expressions, and they really took their time in shooting and editing this film and making it something very magical, which brings me to my next point on why this is such a wonderful movie. In, like I said, an hour and 15 minutes, you have not only a perfect character arc, which I'll go through in a minute, but it builds this amazing world. I love movies that take you and transport you to another place. That is part of the reason that I love watching movies so much. I'm at the movie theaters 3, sometimes 4 times a week watching movies. I love seeing movies in the theater because I like to be transported to another place. That is the first sign of a truly terrific movie. So Nightmare Before Christmas, it opens up with, the trees with different holidays printed on it. So there's already more to this world before you even get into the world itself. Then you are introduced to the character and of Halloween Town and all the characters in one of the best opening songs. This is Halloween. Nightmare Before Christmas is also a very underrated musical. Another reason this movie is so fucking awesome. So you're transported into this world where their one purpose is to prepare for Halloween. They bring Halloween to the world. That's how all these Halloween, all these different holiday towns function. You are introduced to the characters, the patrons of this movie, and then you are introduced to one of the most recognizable protagonists in movie history, Jack Skellington, the Pumpkin King. He's not, there's a mayor of this town, so I don't exactly know what he is to this town besides a really fucking popular dude. I'm pretty sure that's about what he is, but he calls himself the Pumpkin King. But like I said, he's one of the most recognizable characters from a film. Hot Topic and Spencer still have sections dedicated to this movie. 23 years later, it is still making such a wonderful impact on pop culture. Like I said, this is another reason that this movie is just so fantastic. It resonates on so many different levels with people. So you have Jack Skellington, and he goes through such a perfect character arc. It is a character arc that you see in movies all the time, with the way that Tim Burton brought these characters and emotions together. The way he tells the story is such a perfect arc from Jack going from, he's the guy that has it all. He has it all, but he's not happy. He's very popular. I'm sure Jack is loaded. I'm sure Jack gets all the bitches. He's a very popular dude, but he's still not happy. He feels like there's something missing. He's tired of doing the same thing and getting the same results. And this is, like I said, this is a character story that you see often. And then whenever he discovers Christmas Land, and it drives him crazy, and he decides he wants to take over Christmas because he's the shit and he's already made Halloween the shit. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to make Christmas the shit. That's what Jack's thinking in his head. He has very good intentions. However, things blow up in his face. Literally, he gets blown up. But then Jack learns the true meaning of Christmas, and he brings it back to Halloween Town and brings the attitude back with him. He is refreshed to make Halloween great once again. I love this fucking movie. It has one of the best soundtracks of all time. Like I said, this is a very underrated musical, and I can pretty much recite and sing every song, every word of dialogue in this movie. Eventually, I'm going to do a commentary on this movie and just recite the entire thing because I love I love this fucking movie. Nightmare Before Christmas, it's one of the best movies, I believe, like I said, of all time. It sets out to do what it's supposed to do. That's why it's almost a perfect film. It hits in every single aspect that it was intending to hit on. It wanted to bring you spectacular visuals. It wanted to transport you into a magical world. It wanted to give you good songs. It wanted to give you characters that you can relate to. And they're all weirdos because, like I said, that's what Tim Burton does. He makes you feel okay about being an outcast, about being a weirdo, and lets you know that, hey, you're cool, do you, boo-boo. Now, I could go on gushing about this movie from the wonderful Danny Elfman score. It's one of the most perfect scores in a movie of all time. The voice performances, Danny Elfman does the singing for Jack, Catherine O'Hara, Ken Page representing St. Louis. What? I could rave about this movie for hours, literally. But you're going to hear about it, I'm sure, from time to time on other episodes of the podcast. So I'm going to get into the next portion of breaking down why this is my favorite movie. I'm going to talk about what this movie has meant to me as a person. It's kind of shaped who I am, what it's meant to me in my childhood. Because this movie is a big deal for me. Like I said, I have a tattoo of this on my arm because it is something that has just resonated with me my entire life. It's shaped me into who I am. I am a black man, if you haven't noticed. I guess people that don't know me don't know this through a podcast, but now you do. I am a black man, and I grew up in a predominantly white area. So I am used to being an outcast. I know what it feels like to be different. And as a kid, that was something that I struggled with. But resonating with not only Nightmare Before Christmas, all of Tim Burton's films, it really made me embrace who I was. It made me, like I said, feel okay being different, being an outcast. This movie meant such a big deal to me, and I would watch it over and over again. Anytime I was feeling down and wanted to feel better, I'd watch this movie. If I was in a good mood and just wanted to watch something that I was in a good mood for, I would watch this movie because it just works at all times. It works, Halloween, Christmas are the most popular times to watch it, but let's be real. You can watch this movie any day of the week, any month of the year. This movie, like I said, it has just made a big deal to me. And not only because I'm a 6'2" linky tall kid that resembles Jack Skellington, we also relate on that level. But like I said, I've always related with Tim Burton movies on just making myself feel real good about myself. So guys, as this podcast goes on, I will most likely, like I said, continue to talk about Nightmare Before Christmas. It will come up all the time. So I'm not going to waste any more time talking about it. And these episodes where it's just me, these are going to be shorter episodes, somewhere in the 25 to 30 minute range, depending on how much I feel like talking that day. And then episodes where I have a guest and there's going to be more conversation and more things to talk about, those will be longer episodes, somewhere around 45 minutes. So the last segment of these shows will be a story time. I have a feeling that there will become a better title for this segment because story time is so generic. It's like naming your kid Jacob or something. It's such a basic name. Or Tom. Do people name their kids Tom anymore? I really hope not. I feel like that's a name that people are starting to grow out of, kind of like whenever girls grew out of the name Rose. Like, you won't know anybody named Rose right now. And I feel like Tom is next on that list of names that people are growing out of. I'm getting sidetracked. Anyways, like I said, story time will hopefully have a better title in the future, but that's what we're going with for now. And story time will happen on the episodes where it's just me and on the episodes where I have guests because I love telling stories. I have a lot of stupid, ridiculous stories. my life is written by a sitcom writer somewhere. You know, if you've seen The Truman Show, I'm pretty sure it's my real life, because I have some crazy ass stories that literally only happen to me and could only ever happen to me, or stories with Tyler, who, if you guys don't know who I am or Tyler, you will get to meet my hubby very soon. We are recording an episode right after I get done with this, and that episode will also be up tomorrow on Tuesday. So the first 2 episodes of this podcast will be up by tomorrow, and then you'll get an episode every week. Anyways, but yeah, so I have lots of stories, so there will be lots of stories shared with you guys, because I feel like the world needs to know some of these stories, and they will always kind of tie back into either the movie we were talking about, or a topic that we talked about earlier in the podcast. That's where the story time will come from. So this one, this is just not even really a story. It's more just kind of a funny thing that I was thinking about before, while I was setting up to record. I remember as a kid, and I pretty much still get told this every year, because like I said, in height and linkiness, I very much resemble Jack Skellington, and people tell me every year, when are you gonna be Jack Skellington for Halloween? And I'm waiting for a good time. Like, I'm gonna do it. I want to be at a time where I can just like really fucking nail it. But so there was one year whenever I was younger, and somebody was telling me that I should be Jack Skellington for Halloween. But this was at a time where I was not as comfortable joking about my ethnicity. So somebody made a joke. In retrospect, is fucking hilarious. I remember at the time I was super offended by it. He was like, you should be, instead of Jack Skellington, you should be Black Skellington. And I remember as a kid, I like got so fucking upset. And looking back, was I a fucking pussy or something? Because that is awesome. Like, I mean, I'm an aspiring comedian as well. So that is fucking hilarious. Like, whoever that kid is that told me that is a genius, because that is so fucking hilarious. Did I not know what puns were yet at the time? Because I fucking love puns. If you know me, puns are my shit. So I just find it very funny that as a kid, I was offended by something so stupid as in Black Skellington. But looking back, like as an older person and as a comedian, that shit was gold. So if you're listening to this podcast, man, hit me up on Twitter and I'll give you a shout out if you are the person that told me I should be Black Skellington. So yeah, that is my story for today. So to wrap things up, I will just go ahead and plug on where you can find me at, whether it be on social media or on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Deezus Live. You have to search it because I don't have the custom URL yet. This podcast will be up on my YouTube channel as well as on my iTunes feed. Just look up Deezus Live will be the RSS feed, and subscribe to the feed so that way you get all the podcast episodes right whenever they're uploaded. Please rate and review them on iTunes. This will help me out in the future big time, because hopefully I can start getting some money for this shit. So rate me 5 stars, give me a review. I will get you a shout out in a future episode if you rate and review me on iTunes. Follow me on Twitter at Deezus12, that is DEEZUS12, as well on Instagram at Deezus12, but there's a period in between Deezus and 12 because some dickhead on Instagram won't give me my handle. And you can also find me on Facebook at Deezus Live, where I will be posting links for the podcast. And that's where I post links for my videos on my YouTube channel as well. So I really hope that you guys enjoyed this podcast. I hope that you return and you listen and you tell your friends about this podcast. And hopefully I will be hearing from you guys. Like I said at the beginning of the show, if you are listening to this podcast now, go ahead and send me a tweet and I will tweet you back, and I will get you a shout out on a future episode. So until then, every Tuesday morning, sometime around 8 or 10 in the morning, Deezus Take the Reel will be up in your ears. I will catch you guys later. Peace out, motherfuckers.